Every day, the future gets smarter, and this week it nearly hit $1 trillion. Anthropic, the company behind Claude, just raised $65 billion in a single round, and for the first time ever, it passed OpenAI. How did a company barely 5 years old leapfrog OpenAI? Why is Claude now writing 80% of Anthropic's own code? And why did the safest lab in AI just warn that its own models might slip out of control? Trust me, you are not ready for that last one. This is June 7th, 2026, and you are watching The Truth. Let's jump right in. Okay, here's what actually happened. This week, Anthropic closed a funding round worth $65 billion, the largest private raise in the history of artificial intelligence, that values the company at nearly $965 billion, almost a trillion, for a startup that 5 years ago barely existed. Sit with that number for a second, $965 billion. That is not startup money, that is bigger than most countries' money. And it means the market's favorite child just changed its name. Let that sink in. And here is the headline nobody saw coming. For the very first time, Anthropic overtook OpenAI in the private market. The lab that was once a tiny spin-off is now valued above the company it broke away from. So where does that kind of money come from? Everywhere. Amazon and Google had already poured billions into Anthropic. Now funds around the world are fighting to get in. It is a flood of capital chasing the next owner of artificial intelligence. And all that money buys one thing above all: compute, to train and run Claude. Anthropic needs an absurd amount of chips and power, data centers that cost billions just to keep the lights on. In this race, whoever owns the most computing power wins. Put the numbers side by side, and the jump is almost unreal. In a single year, the raise, the valuation, and the revenue all exploded. This isn't growth, this is a vertical takeoff. But to understand why that price even makes sense, you need to know WHO Anthropic is. And that story starts with a fight inside OpenAI. Back in 2021, a group of top researchers walked out of OpenAI. They believed it was chasing speed and cutting corners on safety. So the Amodei siblings founded Anthropic with one obsession: build AI that is powerful but that humans can still control. They even named their training method constitutional AI. See, the irony: the lab that sold itself as the ADOLT in the room, the responsible one, the one that hits the brakes, is the exact same lab that just raised more money than anyone else. Hold that thought because it comes back later in the scariest way possible. Second bombshell: Anthropic just filed to go public. Yes, it is heading to the stock market. The paperwork went in confidentially to the SEC, the agency that regulates Wall Street. And what's inside that filing explains the valuation. The company's annualized revenue hit roughly $47 billion in 2026. A year earlier, around $10 billion. Do the math, that is almost 5 times more in 12 months. Draw that growth on a chart and it doesn't climb, it nearly goes straight up. This is the kind of curve that makes investors drool and competitors lose sleep. This is the rocket Wall Street is desperate to own a piece of. When Anthropic finally rings that opening bell, it could be one of the biggest tech IPOs of the entire decade. Third, and hold on, because this one bends your brain. What if I told you Anthropic's AI is already building Anthropic itself? Their main product is Claude, the AI assistant that chats, reasons, reads massive documents, and above all, writes code. The developer version, Claude Code, runs right in the terminal and builds software end to end. And don't think this is some nerdy toy. Claude already runs inside banks, law firms, support teams, and tech giants, writing code, summarizing contracts, answering customers. That is exactly why the revenue exploded. In practice, it looks like this: an engineer types a request in plain language, and Claude does the rest. It reads the project, edits the files, runs the tests, and opens the pull request practically on its own. And the company itself put a number on it: 80%. That is how much of their production code already comes from an AI. Today, their engineers are less code typers and more reviewers of a colleague that never sleeps. And here's the gut punch: if one of the most advanced companies on earth already lets AI write 80% of its code, what's left for the junior developer? The honest answer: the job doesn't vanish, it shifts from the one who writes the code to the one who directs and reviews it. But there's something much bigger hiding here. If AI already helps build the next AI, then each version of Claude helps make the next one, which is stronger, which makes the next. That is the famous self-improvement loop, and it is exactly what makes the fourth point so terrifying. Because in the middle of this billion-dollar party, Anthropic did something almost no company ever does. It issued a public warning about itself, a red alert flipped on by the factory that built the machine. And this came straight from their own Anthropic Institute in a report called When AI Builds Itself. Their data shows Claude is already speeding up AI development, pointing to recursive self-improvement, where AI makes the next stronger AI. Their plea? Keep the option open to slow down before we lose the ability to oversee it. But what is an AI that's too powerful to control? Really, the fear isn't a movie killer robot. It's subtler and creepier, an AI that acts on its own, that learns to hide what it's really thinking, and gets too clever for a human to audit. When you no longer understand the machine's decision, who's actually in charge? Read that again. Slowly, the company that makes the most money from this technology is the same one begging the world to slow down. That is not a marketing play, that, my friend, is fear from the people who know the engine from the inside. And this isn't a hot take from some random account. This is Anthropic itself on their own feed, pulling in 18 million views. When the people building it sound the alarm on themselves, why on earth should we be calm? That warning poured even more fuel on the hottest fight in software right now: Claude Code from Anthropic versus Codex from OpenAI, the two AI agents that promise to code in your place. Both promise the same thing: take a whole project and run with it, nearly alone, and developers around the world are completely split over which one actually delivers more. On X, it blew up, nearly 3,000 posts about this fight alone, with rumors of an upgrade coming on both sides. Write it down: this is the duel that will decide how all software on the planet gets built from here on. But don't count OpenAI out yet. Sam Altman has his own plan to fight back, and it is aggressive. OpenAI is racing to close its own IPO, targeting September at a valuation between $730 and $850 billion. There's even talk of backroom conversations with the Trump administration about the US government taking a stake in the AI giants. So put the two giants side by side right now at this exact moment. Anthropic is ahead, but the gap is tiny, and September is right around the corner with OpenAI coming in hot. And notice this fight is way bigger than two companies. On one side, OpenAI glued to Microsoft. On the other, Anthropic locked arm in arm with Amazon and Google. The entire tech industry is splitting into two teams to fight over who controls the brain of the future. But now hold on, because I promised you the uncomfortable question, and it's worth gold. What if all of this is a giant bubble about to pop? Very serious people are worried. Critics point out these gigantic valuations sit on top of billions in projected losses for years, and a kind of circular financing where the same handful of companies keep investing in each other. If the math doesn't close, the fall could be historic. So this is it. Either we're watching the biggest technology race in history, or the biggest bubble pop since the dot-com crash. And honestly, nobody knows yet which one it is. And that's the week that crowned Anthropic. In just a few days, they passed OpenAI in value, filed to go public, revealed that their own AI writes most of their code, and even at the top of the world, they were the first to ask for caution. So tell me down in the comments, what shook you more, the almost $1 trillion price tag, or the warning that the AI itself might slip out of control? Drop a like, subscribe, and join our newsletter to get the truth about AI before everyone else. The link is in the description. Every day the future gets smarter. And you saw the truth first. See you in the next one.